I am Kesten Rono, and you're here again. Thank you so much for day 66 of our exploration of A Course in Miracles, reviewing the principles of miracles. Principle 6. Miracles are natural. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Miracles are natural. When they do not occur, something has gone wrong. Miracles are natural. When they do not occur, something has gone wrong. Yesterday, miracles are habits and should be involuntary. They should not be under conscious control. Consciously selected miracles can be misguided. If we are assuming control over any kind of process of miracles, we are interrupting whatever its natural flow is, that they should be something that we are just doing. They're habits, they're involuntary. A reminder that miracles are natural. They do not seem like they absolutely fit how the laws here work. Most people who go to the doctor do not experience a miracle. Most people who go to the doctor accept a diagnosis and attempt to work through that diagnosis, likely with prescriptions on how that should be addressed. But sometimes someone goes to the doctor feeling differently, and their tests reveal, for whatever they have, that they simply are healed. This is our black swan event. This is our opportunity to notice that something is possible in our lives, in time and space, that connects us to the unknown, to the invisible, to some way of seeing the world beyond our current way of thinking. And it's natural. And so the patient or the doctor might proclaim, it's a miracle. We don't know how it works. And then immediately go right back to the standard way of thinking, even though right in front of them, right in front of us. How often does an idea like this happen? That our world around us is trying to get our attention, reflecting an opportunity to see life differently. The absolute reality that in this particular case, this person was simply healed with ease, violating all laws, going against the structure that the doctor would imagine is the only way, as they have been taught only one way, let's say. I mean, I'm being very general here. But they have a standard procedure for offering care. And outside of their system, something miraculous has happened, that someone has healed, and that it has happened outside of their standard of care and in debt with some authority. Many people, many doctors in this particular case, may be busy and focused, even in the most righteous sense, the most moral sense, the truest sense, to do no harm and offer care to people with full consent. And in this process of relaying this information that that has been learned in the past, and honoring their practice and needing, it would seem, their practice to repay the mountain of debt required by this way of thinking and this system to arrive at this position, having proven themselves through a ring of fire, not sleeping during their training at the hospital prior to becoming a full-fledged physician, that they have really put themselves through a ringer in this system, that they've proven something by doing something very hard, very challenging. It would stand to reason that someone like this could feel incentivized to just miss this opportunity of even highlighting this miracle to change their perspective on the world. That everything has come down to this science of this system in order to help people have some version of care, even if it is not a root cause fix. But this is the way. This is the way that we have been taught. And yet, those laws can be violated with ease, and someone can experience healing invisibly according to the rules that we understand outside of our current system. And the miracle is waving, saying, hey, check this out. It can also be this easy. Do you want to spend time learning about how this could be possible? If you do, because this is happening beyond any reasoning that any of us could understand, if you spend time attempting to figure this out, you will end up seeing the world from an entirely different viewpoint, should you want to understand. If we want to understand something that could be so radically antithetical to our current way of approaching healing, and yet it happened so simply, with such ease, in an inexplicable way, then we will be admitting to ourselves that in order to understand, we will have to be changing our entire perception, entering into a whole new perspective to arrive at understanding, therefore becoming this different viewpoint, which will allow us to look at the idea of a miracle so far outside of our system's way of thinking, but so that we can look at the miracle from some new perspective and say, oh, of course, it's so obvious, it's so easy, it's so natural. And if we do that, well, the trade-off will be that we will no longer see it how we had before, that we will be foregoing all of the ways that we thought everything worked. And suddenly, it would seem that whatever has been shared in this book thus far will be true. Miracles are natural, we are being told, and they can happen naturally in our world. And we have no explanation, so we simply call them a miracle. If we want to be able to explain them, we will have to become the perspective on the other side of witnessing the miracle, where we can see the engineering of how this works, so that we can feel the flow of how this works, and we will have to accept that it breaks all laws of our old system. And yet it's still possible. And it's still easy once we can see how it's simply working. And the beautiful part of this is that miracles are synonymous with an idea of healing, something holy, holy coming out of love, perfection, that they are instant, we imagine. Just this radical change that could happen no other way than a blessing by God. And we call this blessing by God, some of us might say, I don't know if a doctor would claim that a miracle is a blessing by God, just that it is inexplicable. And if we had to dig from that kind of system, we would say it's just unknown why this has changed for you. And that would threaten everything that we would normally leverage and feel safe falling back on, even with the most righteous physician, offering the absolute best care with the most enthusiasm, would be challenged to have to accept that there is another way of doing this, something that is actually faster, something that is more complete, something that is whole, unchangeable, and must be accepted. once we start to look, we realize that we are going to have to give up all of the other ways of thinking that we have, that we've been assigning meaning to everything around us and a purpose, and we feel that it has been serving us. But we are serving some other idea that is not miraculous. And we are here to understand how this could simply be okay, how this could simply be possible, and how we can participate in this flow of miracles. And we are learning that they are natural. And when they do not occur, something has gone wrong. Miracles are a natural process, a gift, a revealing of the invisible healing that can occur in time and space. They are the spectacle, the fireworks, the grand finale, attempting to get our attention so we may wake up to what we have been missing because it simply has not fit the mold that we have accepted for this world. And we are here to just try on these ideas until we become curious about the holy healing that springs forth out of an idea of love that simply is and is natural. What is this? What do we have to give up? In quotes here, of course, in order to see this. Because if a physician had the power of miracles, now they shouldn't be consciously controlled, that may be misguided, but in this example, if a physician, a true scientist, interested in the purest truth, offering the greatest healing for any of his or her patients, if this physician could harness the power of miracles instead of using the quote unquote power of a pill with a handful of side effects that enriches some people and may offer some relief to the people who take it, but that relief is a trade-off in their life and life savings in some other sense. If this physician could harness the power of miracles, would they not prescribe that? Would they not use that? Would that not become the greatest standard of care? What would it mean then for informed consent? What is the side effect of offering someone a miracle? Well, it is the biggest risk of all time that they will feel innately that the way they have been viewing the world is not the highest truth. And therein lies the quote unquote risk that we will have to set aside the illusionary way we have been seeing the world, accept the false perspective that we have assumed, forgive ourselves with humility, and accept that there is another way. For many of us, this could feel challenging to realize that we have been doing something wrong. For a mother to realize that the food they had been feeding their child for decades possibly has been, for lack of a better term, poisoning them, and that when we feed whole foods to ourselves, our bodies run better than on a processed diet advertised all over TV. It is okay that we hadn't noticed a different way of seeing the world yet. And we are invited that when we notice that there could be a fuller, more natural way of simply allowing the body to heal and take care of itself, that we allow that change to happen, that we feel our upset about it, rather than believe because this change could mean that we were doing something quote unquote wrong, that we ignore it because we feel shame about having fed our children the wrong food, and instead of accept that what has been and notice it that it has been the past and there is a great awakening for a new opportunity to heal and to feel better, What is it that keeps us from pursuing that? Simply because we have to see it in comparison to the old way we had been seeing things. We can see one as true and one as false, but we assign a new hurt to ourselves, a new attack that said, oh, this mother, or if I am the parent, I feel shame for having poisoned my kids because that's the lens I choose to see. And therefore, I want to avoid that pain. And I continue with what is been normal. And I ignore the outcome. I never give credence to the miracle of this new piece of information of healing. Instead, we can recognize that as just simply our perspective. And if we can visit those feelings and release them, we can notice what else is there, which is the truth, which is a great exuberance and gratitude and love and appreciation and open-mindedness for saying, wow, there was an easier way. I can grow this food if I have time and energy and some soil. I can empower my community to get chickens and feed its other food scraps to these and receive eggs. But there can be a great bounty in another way of viewing community, in another way of viewing food, and in another way of viewing medicine through whole food, and allowing our system to return to something that is more natural and let it take care of itself for the most part. And we can intervene as we think that we need to. It is our decision to charge our thoughts with positivity or negativity, however we see fit. That everything that is happening is, strictly speaking, meaningless. And we are the ones, as creators, with a mind, who gets to imbue our experience with an idea. And if we let all of our control go, we may simply notice the whisperings of the life that is around us. And if we feel attack thoughts, we're receiving highlights to say, oh, I keep putting these attack thoughts on. Maybe they're simpler than the violence, the true violence that we see around us, but I still catch myself defending ideas and I have to laugh. Now I'm walking around using language of, oh, it's just an attack thought, getting cut off on the road. I have my pets and partner with me. I don't want them at risk. I could have a few choice comments, although I'm not lashing out in anger. At this point, I feel myself saying, that was unsafe. You know that was wrong. And even then, I have to laugh and say, this is an attack thought, which I literally said out loud recently on a road trip. This is an attack thought. I will let it go. All is okay. We are safe. I don't know if that's exactly how I reframed it word for word, but I see myself slipping into these defenses and attacks. And in real time, I hope that I am noticing them, like the doctor who notices the miracle is saying, wow, would you love an easier way of offering healing that is natural? Are you willing to let go of what you think is a sacrifice and recognize that this true vision may only bless? It just feels like we have to lose everything because we have been assigning value to something that has been simply highlighted and saying, this is not as valuable as another way of seeing it. That the mother, or me if I was the parent, would not need to wear an idea of shame or depression or anger, guilt, upon seeing another way of feeding the child. That this is a gift, it is a blessing. There is no sacrifice. We are only letting go of the old habitual ways and our chemical dependencies to them, and they were not serving us. They have been leading us in a direction of needing that doctor who cannot help us with the root cause and will not show us the miracle. Well, lest they create the lab test before and after, or through that process we discover some wild healing that is tracked there for us to wake up to it. But either way, it is on each of us to recognize how we feel and to let it go. See it for the illusion it is, and constantly move in the direction of what is true. And we're finding that what is true is actually easiest. And there is something natural occurring. And I suppose this is where we have faith, this idea. Because as we're moving in this direction, we are finding that we are stepping into this synchronistic engine, that something else is occurring, that we are finding more love and abundance if that is what we are creating for ourselves. Will we accept that and recognize that we are giving up nothing by simply noticing the natural flow of miracles? When they do not occur, something has gone wrong. May you see a miracle, and may its spectacle invite you to realize that it is the source of the miracle that matters. And none of them is more difficult than another. That they are naturally occurring expressions of love, and you are invited to know this. My only function is the one God gave me. I want no other, and I have no other. May we allow ourselves to see it so simply and to accept. Lesson 66. My happiness and my function are one. Please repeat this. My happiness and my function are one. My happiness and my function are one. You have surely noticed an emphasis throughout our recent lessons on the connection between fulfilling your function and achieving happiness. This is because you do not really see the connection. I love being told that I cannot see it. But we are getting closer and closer to noticing something that may be delicate to notice. But we are here changing our perspective. But our happiness and our function are inexplicably linked. That fulfilling our function to be the light of the world, using the power of forgiveness to create healing, undoing the way we have been seeing, releasing, bringing us peace and offering peace to everyone around us, and from a mind's perspective, to all minds which are interlinked, and then feeling happiness. There is more than just a connection between them, between happiness and our function. They are the same. Okay. My happiness and my function are one. They're not independent, combined to be connected all the time as one. They are the same. Their forms are different, but their content is completely one. This is an exciting idea. We are going to say that two things with different forms are one. This should stretch our minds as we categorize the shape and function of things around us. Here we are not saying that the function of a birthday party is to make you feel happy. We are saying that your function, being the light of the world, using the power of forgiveness to create peace so that you may know happiness, your function is the same as happiness in a different container. We don't look at two containers of things and say they are the same. We say they are different. Maybe they're related. Maybe there's a cause and effect between two ideas. But here we are simply saying that our function and our true happiness have different forms, but the content is the same. It is one. The ego does constant battle with the Holy Spirit on the fundamental question of what your function is. Okay. Ego giving credence to illusions, saying they are real, building in darkness, not knowing light, being fearful of the truth, because if it is known by its host, whoever is hosting that idea, the ego will dissolve, die. It simply will just settle against the truth, and the truth will be revealed. Therefore, the ego is scared. The Holy Spirit, on the other hand, able to see the difference between truth and illusion, giving credence to truth, being the connection to God, created by God. That when we align our vision with the Holy Spirit, we are able to simply see what is true and what is illusion. And we move closer as we build with truth in the creation of what must therefore be true, compounding in this direction, creating abundance, being connected to the eternal realm of knowledge. And I would suppose that at some point, when we have been learning along this process, time ends, since time is a tool for learning. God in the eternal realm of knowledge is beyond the idea of time. At least that is my imagining. The ego does constant battle with the Holy Spirit on the fundamental question of what your function is. The ego convincing us of one thing, the Holy Spirit, I suppose, being available for us to see it differently. So it does do constant battle with the Holy Spirit about what your happiness is. It is not a two-way battle. Okay, that's what it felt like to me too. The ego attacks and the Holy Spirit does not respond. He knows what your function is. He knows that it is your happiness. Yes. What effort would truth and unconditional love, happiness ever need to apply on the efforts of the ego? The child screaming in the supermarket because it can't have the cookies, sitting on the ground throwing a fit. And maybe each person parents differently, of course. But if a parent is not offering those because they know that those cookies are not great for that child, and the child will not receive them, and the child is even being allowed to, and understandably, express its emotions, to feel the truth from the other perspective that says, we're not going to buy those. I mean, this is a silly example. The truth can have patience, provided if we believe we have time for this to be felt out, so it could simply just be understood, released. But the truth would have patience. It would just be there. It would know the truth. It would know that the end result of this idea is for your health and for your happiness. It's not a punishment. It's just a simple noticing of another illusion in the world being sold as food and happiness. But digesting this thing, storing this item, detoxing this item for a small dopamine effect is a trick that probably you and I and anyone else listening to this falls victim to. And that's okay. May we notice another way. Today we will try to go past this wholly meaningless battle and arrive at the truth about your function. We will not engage in senseless arguments about what it is. We will not become hopelessly involved in defining happiness and determining the means for achieving it. We will not indulge the ego by listening to its attacks on truth. We will merely be glad that we can find out what the truth is. Thank you. Thank you. I have bogged myself down with paralysis by analysis or attempting not to feel using thinking instead. There's no way to think our way to feeling and releasing. It is an insane idea that we could continue to approach the realm of knowledge, which has to be found through discovering meaningless in the way that we have been thinking. And now today we have tools like quote unquote AI speeding up our thinking, outsourcing our thinking for us even. And all we're doing is entering back into the analytical of the world's texts, curated, the boundaries of it curated by independent companies telling us what is okay for an answer and what is not okay for an answer. That we are outsourcing how we feel and how we might approach our health and cancer research. I'm not denying that these things could be valuable, but they are fundamentally denying how we feel and returning to a natural process of a time before the distribution of processed wheat, processed dairy, processed sugar, processed salt, that there is another way of living, and we are simply provided for in our environment. And this is a reflection of our provision of our spiritual plane, that we are provided for internally, that we have everything that we need, that we are wildly abundant and worthy, powerful, and totally complete when we look within ourselves, that we are full of an idea of formless, limitless light. And we can set aside our sickness of attempting to reason our way there only. We do not need to keep finding new information in anxiousness and in fear and never discovering that part of our medicine is a natural part of us to notice how it is that we feel, that there could be energy preceding what we are experiencing, that our cause and effect are completely linked instantaneously, the cause being our thoughts, how we charge them, that there are no neutral things because there are no neutral thoughts, and the effects being the things which are reflecting our own state to us, or at least the opportunity for us to see things differently. So I love this. We're not going to entertain this cyclical loop. I see this in some communities, and I'm willing to say there is something I do not like about that in me, so that I may feel my way there when I can notice that other people curious about healing get caught in the cycle of thinking. Our longer practice period today will, patience. Our longer practice period today has at its purpose your acceptance of the fact that not only is there a very real connection between the function God gave you and your happiness, but that they are actually identical. Okay, let it just be true that our function and our happiness are identical. God gives you only happiness. Therefore, the function he gave you must be happiness if it appears to be different. The function he gave you must be happiness, even if it appears to be different. Today's exercises are an attempt to go beyond these differences in appearance and recognize a common content where it exists in truth. I've been reflecting on how any idea brought to the altar of truth, releasing itself there, will dissolve and the truth will be revealed. That the truth has been feeling like one thing to me. The truth. The truth. It can be the truth about this or the truth about that, but the point is that this and that are infinitely different, and they all arrive at the altar of truth. When they settle, only the truth remains. It could be the truth about anything. But I feel that this applies to an attempt to go beyond these differences in appearance of this or that and recognize a common content where it exists in truth. There is a commonality of all things. If in all things you are saying, what is the truth? Then that's what's revealed. That fundamentally the truth is the one thing. It is common in everything. Everything has the truth in it. Not a truth, the truth about this or that. Begin the 10 to 15-minute practice period by reviewing these thoughts. So borrowing yesterday as the idea, did you find a time? I didn't. I was busy-minded out. And I did my practice later than I expected. I fell asleep again after, waking and stirring, waking up and saying, what was my function? My only function is the one God gave me. What was my function? Let me not forget my function. What was it? The light of the world brings peace to every mind through my forgiveness. Forgiveness is my function as the light of the world. I am the light of the world. Let me not forget my function. My only function is the one God gave me. And indeed, some of these principles, their themes are even showing up in my dreams. I'm dreaming again. And I notice that I'm seeing even in my dreams differently. That I am again seeing incongruencies in my dreams while in them. That I'm waking up through my dreams. Please repeat after me. God gives me only happiness. God gives me only happiness. He has given my function to me. He has given my function to me. God gives me only happiness. He has given my function to me. Therefore, my function must be happiness. Therefore, my function must be happiness. One time altogether. God gives me only happiness. He has given my function to me. Therefore, my function must be happiness. I'll repeat it one more time. God gives me only happiness. He has given my function to me. Therefore, my function must be happiness. Your function and happiness are one. Try to see the logic in this sequence, even if you do not yet accept the conclusion. The logic, again, God gave you something. God only gives happiness. Remember, God springs life forward through love, through the expression of love. You are created in love. You are perfectly safe, perfectly happy, even if you cannot understand where or how that idea could exist in what you are experiencing. That is the miracle coming forward to say, there is another way of seeing this. Doctor, there is another realm of healing. It is invisible to you right now, but it can be known. You have seen the spectacle of it. So God gives to you. He gives you only happiness. He gives you the truth. He gives you love. He gives you this perspective. He gives you infinite time, peace, invulnerability. He's connected to you. God gives you only happiness, and He has given you your function. Therefore, your function must be happiness. It is the substance of your function. Happiness is the meat of your function. Try to see the logic in this sequence, even if you do not yet accept the conclusion. It is only if the first two thoughts are wrong that the conclusion could be false. Let us then think about the premises for a while as we are practicing. This reminds me of our 3-step process that takes 2 steps: to feel, to release, and then to simply notice what's left over when we release our illusions. In this case, God gives you happiness. God gave you your function. What do you notice? Your function must be of happiness, at least, but it could be happiness itself. The first premise is that God gives you gives you only happiness. This could be false, of course, but in order to be false, it is necessary to define God as something he is not. Love cannot give evil, and what is not happiness is evil. God cannot give what he does not have, and he cannot have what he is not. Unless God gives you only happiness, he must be evil. So God would be evil only if he does not give you happiness. And this is the definition of him you are believing if you do not accept the first premise. So if you do not accept that God gives you only happiness, your idea of what God is wrong. You are giving your allegiance to a God that does not give out of happiness. Therefore, you are charged through your own thoughts about what you believe God is. You are charged with an idea of unhappiness, at least in some circumstances. I'm not saying that I know what God is and therefore you are wrong in that sense, but you are wrong if an idea of God can exist that exudes happiness and you choose not to see it, but you believe that the results should be of happiness, then this is an illogical connection. This principle is wrong. It will never be manifested right, and you will not know true happiness if all inspiration for what life is has come from unhappiness that your God is advertising to you that you should attack under some circumstances. If you're giving your allegiance to a religious text that tells you you must fight to find peace, or worse, that actions of violence are condoned, that those who do not believe like you believe are below you, then this religion is not based on an idea where the ultimate source of whatever is love, and that forgiveness is the tool to noticing it, and that forgiveness is the quote unquote sacrifice that we take on by accepting this idea. It's not a sacrifice, of course, because it may only bless getting closer to true vision, but we are required from this lens of this idea of God to risk it all and step beyond our ideas of attacks that we would normally subscribe to and forgive first, forgive ultimately, forgive eternally to become that idea. I love this paragraph. I want to read it again. The first premise, God gives me only happiness. The first premise is that God gives you only happiness. This could be false, of course. I love that we are able to question this because perhaps you have been, and that would be okay. If we just accepted each thing as true, no matter what, then we would be building from the perspective of us who could not believe that it could be true. We would be building with illusions. And the irony would be that this text is trying to instruct us that we have always been building with illusions, and our inability to be curious about an idea of God that could be based out of love, that God gives life, that miracles are the expression of love, that miracles mean life, that these things are intrinsically linked. This book is suggesting that you can have an idea of life based off of love, peace, and happiness. And here is the tool set to be able to wake up to the process of miracles. Or we could stay how we are, thinking that constantly being mined for our energy, existing in a system that uses the threat of violence in order to steal from you and your savings through a variety of mechanisms, that it is not addressing root cause in medicine, that it confuses itself through a variety of less than transparently incentivized studies and organizations, that we are confused, that we are not discovering more and more health, more and more abundance in money or population or creativity or energy. Where have all those ideas gone? If they are the focus, why is this our result? Perhaps it is incongruent. Why do we keep supplying ultimate allegiance to the way things have been if they have not been serving us clearly in our best interests? Never mind if we don't know what our true best interest is. That would be understandable. How could we ever discover it within that system? We would be looking for ways to navigate around through, fix these things, find our temporary peace, noticing that many others have no idea what it is and may never know. What kind of world is that? If we are strip mining that idea of peace and energy from everywhere we go so that we may have it for a short amount of time, are we not therefore even taking it from our own future generations? While we pretend that if we could build it all up and hold on to it as we pass it on, that everyone else in our line will be okay. And that might be true up to a point. But eventually this idea kills everything around it because it is eating everything around it. And the same would be true as stretched out to infinity with any idea separate from the idea of love and vulnerability, patience, peace, truth, abundance, in a true sense, that we're living in a trick. So it would be natural that we would hear an idea that God gives you only happiness and say, is that seriously true? And the book is even saying, sure, we need to consider it that it could be false. We're asking to really reach a conclusion on a third premise based off of two previous premises. Of course, the third could be broken if either of the first two is false. So consider it false. But in order for it to be false, it is necessary to define God as something he is not. So the book is not wavering at all on what God is. It is fully accepting of God as it has been suggesting that God is. And we are not, if we are questioning whether or not this is true. But the book is being very specific. And this directness is kindness. This could be false, of course, that God gives you only happiness, but in order to be false, it is necessary to define God as something he is not. Love cannot give evil, and what is not happiness is evil. So, if God is happiness and gives out of happiness, then he is not evil. And if you are finding that you are not being given happiness, then the source of that would be the opposite of this happiness. And now we're even calling it evil. God cannot give what he does not have. The same is true for you and I. And he cannot have what he is not. So, therefore, God is happiness. God gives happiness. If he wanted to give fear, anger, or any other sadness, any other upset, then God would have to be those things, as we cannot give what we do not have. That is a fundamental principle of truth. Look around at our financial system and realize how much selling there is of things that people do not have. It creates a lie. It creates a lack of transparency. It creates destruction, and it requires the need for a system of obfuscation so that the people who are being stolen from buying something that the seller did not have, it requires that they do not notice and that they continue to believe that it is true. We have all fallen victim to this. Perhaps you do not feel that that is true. And I would say that it is true because it follows the exact same principle that's being delivered here. God cannot give what he does not have, and he cannot have what he is not. Unless God gives you only happiness, he must be evil. And it is this definition of him you are believing if you do not accept the first premise that God gives me only happiness. The second premise is that God has given you your function. We have seen that there are only two parts of your mind. One is ruled by the ego and is made up of illusions. The other is the home of the Holy Spirit, where truth abides. Okay, actually, I want to pause here because I had not yet thought about it so directly that our mind has two poles. One is the ego and one is the Holy Spirit. Of course, they are at opposite ends of each other, the Holy Spirit and the ego. The ego, made up of illusions, the Holy Spirit, the realm of truth. I love that our mind has become like the container for these two things. That whatever we are as a realm of imagination and consciousness, we have two paths. One is truth and one is illusion. That it is our nature to be able to choose. We are charging everything around us. And from this lens, saying, do I look through the ego or do I look through my holiness? That is ultimately how we are creating something that is negative through the ego, building in darkness, leading to a path of ultimate destruction of that idea, which is a gift so that we can wake back up to the middle, the center, where we get to see, oh, shoot, I get to choose. I'm a creator in that sense. And now I choose to imbue through my holiness, to try on something different relative to the experience that I'm having, even though I'm releasing whatever that experience is through the power of forgiveness, because I'm recognizing as I get back to the center and want to be curious about the Holy Spirit and its truer vision, that all those experiences were of an idea in the past, which is not right now. And the truth becomes simpler and simpler, easier and easier to see. So our mind has two parts. One is the ego and one is the Holy Spirit. There are no other guides but these to choose between, and no other outcomes possible as the result of your choice but the fear that the ego always engenders and the love that the Holy Spirit always offers to replace it. You have fear or you have love. I've thought about these as two paths. I've called them divergent. Then I had to say, well, maybe they're parallel. If it's always essentially one step away to noticing love again and getting picked back up by God, now with his happiness, his excitement, whatever it is that he is along the line of true vision, pure celebration of perfection, because that is what you are, created from what he is. And it is so exciting to notice rather than needing to be destructive, thinking that God is cruel and the world is pain and that we must be afraid. There are no other guides between these to choose between. You are on a fork in the road at all times. You may only pick fear or love. And no other outcomes possible as a result of your choice, but the fear of the ego always engenders and the love that the Holy Spirit always offers to replace it. May we notice this love. Thus, it must be that your function is established by God through his voice, or is made by the ego, which you have made to replace him. His voice, the word, the idea that everything is a vibration, a sound, his voice. That the sound, the vibration is true. Or we use ours, believing that this is not true, that there is not a simple truth. And we add a new vibration. And so the world looks and feels differently. It feels out of alignment. It feels separate from God, which is true. Unless God gave your function to you, it must be the gift of the ego. Let me repeat that. It must be that your function is established by God through his voice or is made by the ego, which you have made to replace him, which is true. Unless God gave your function to you, it must be the gift of the ego. I see. So we either have our function established by God through his voice, therefore we believe that it's true that God gave us our function, or we believe that our function was gifted to us by the ego. Therefore, we are replacing our idea of God with something that does not serve us. It serves the ego, which is fear itself. It's its only tool. Does the ego really have gifts to give, being itself an illusion and offering only the illusion of gifts? Wow, that's a powerful statement. Does the ego really have gifts to give, being itself an illusion and offering only the illusion of gifts? I'll just let that be. Think about this during the longer practice period today. Think about the many forms the illusion of your function has taken in your mind, and the many ways in which you have tried to find salvation under the ego's guidance. Did you find it? Were you happy? Did they bring you peace? We need great honesty today. Remember the outcomes fairly, and consider also whether it was ever reasonable to expect happiness from anything the ego ever proposed. Yet the ego is the only alternative to the Holy Spirit's voice. I think we have already discussed a few examples of this. If you stretch out these insane ideas to the infinite in your mind using the power of your imagination, if you run that test, you will see that everyone using those ideas must die and those ideas will die with them. That we can, if we're giving allegiance to sickness and through sickness attempting to find health, and we're using sickness as the pole, the measuring tool to say, I don't want that. But we are wearing it. I don't want that, or I want that, is missing the idea that what you want already is yours. It's a very delicate and different way of seeing it. But if we don't want something and we want something, then we are entering into a new cycle of attacks, even if it's, I want to be healthy. I want to lose weight. I don't want to be sick. I don't want to be fat. This is the cycle of attacks, just a different fractal of the same idea. Are we ever really going to believe that we are going to find health through sickness? Just fundamentally, does that even sound like it makes sense? Or do we have to be living in a world where we see health to know health? Perhaps I'm not phrasing that in a way that makes it the simplest. Does the ego really have gifts to give, being itself an illusion and offering only the illusion of gifts? You have been trying to find salvation, peace, safety, meaning, purpose under the ego's guidance. You've been living inside of a system that is taxing by design, extracting by design. And we continue to feed the system because we are it. It is just made of us and a few people and a set of incentives over time that make it feel like this is entrenched and permanent and therefore safe, even though it is crumbling and can be seen from all the cracks in the system through which the light flows. Yet we still give it our allegiance. We believe that we are going to find some peace through the system that is extracting. No, it's okay. May we build in a new system that everyone could come to, find peace. What would that system need to look like? Well, it would need to look like something fundamentally completely different than the way that we have been seeing the world. And it's okay to dream and think about this idea and to say, I choose to see it another way. And suddenly, if we choose to see it another way, we are charged with a new function and purpose. And if we are ultimately working towards something that is formless and limitless, unconditional, the truth, accepting, the fountain of happiness, well, we're going to end up in a very holy, eternal idea. And thus, it is true that you are the light of the world from this perspective, that you have a function, that you must forgive, that the salvation of every mind depends on your ability to do so, because you are the one waking up and making that decision to see and build a new system. And it does not exist for everyone else to notice as easy as it is for you to attempt to notice right now with this practice. It does not exist for everyone that you know unless you build it. Let us build in a new system that it cannot extract. It is not going to require sacrifice. It feels like it is going to require sacrifice because the old system absolutely needs you to remain ignorant and in the dark, believing that you will find health through its sickness. That is an illness. Have you found salvation under the ego's guidance? If you found it, were you actually happy? Was it eternal? Did it bring you peace? Was it perfect peace? Did you feel perfectly safe? I feel that innately, I don't even need the next sentence, that we need great honesty today. It is just simply not true that I've ever found one of those through, I have not found health through sickness. Sickness may have been a teacher to choose health and to choose a different way. Absolutely. But fundamentally, health does not exist in sickness. Sickness as an idea may only offer sickness. It is ill, and any host that chooses to wear it will know illness. Health, love, truth, these are their own ideas, and they may only offer what they are, because we can only give what we do not have as a fundamental natural law, which is why we find destruction when we sell what we do not own. It's just not possible. It violates the idea that you can give something that you don't have. I can't. If I fake happiness when I go out, yes, people may notice, oh, he's so bright. But I faked it. It is fake. And what they feel and receive is fake. I have sold something I do not have because I can't give it in that moment. I feel something else. I can only give what I feel. So if I want to give happiness everywhere I go, I must know happiness at all times. How would that need to be? How could that be? Otherwise, I don't have happiness at all times. I'm calling it happiness. It mostly is, but as soon as I leave, you're going to watch my smile drain away. I'm back to my busy mindedness. I'm getting angry on the road. Whatever. Whatever the story is for each one of us. We have something else going on that no one else could understand. It's too much to explain in the social setting, so we grit our teeth and smile. We are offering something called happiness when we are feeling pain for something else that is happening in our lives. And the whole blueprint is asking us, will you please feel your pain? You can release it. You can let it go. You can see that it is not here now. The joke, is this pain in the room with us right now? It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist right now. Yes, I know, but my partner is suffering at home. Yes, how do we reconcile that? How do we reconcile something like that? It becomes immediately complex when we get into the thinking. But we will go past this wholly meaningless battle of fear and arrive at the truth about our function. We will not engage in senseless arguments about what it is. We will not become hopelessly involved in defining happiness and determining the means for achieving it. We will not indulge the ego by listening to its attacks on truth. We will merely be glad that we can find out what truth is. We cannot reconcile all things in time and space, and we are not here to dismiss them because we've run into a conundrum. We are here to continue to feel love and forgiveness through the experiences that we are having, just like feeling our feelings is required for us to feel something else so that we can offer that wholly where we are. Try to see the logic in this sequence, even if you do not yet accept the conclusion. What do we do if our loved one is sick? Maybe we are allowed to feel how we feel. Maybe through this feeling, we can see what is happening another way and offer even more love, support, and patience. That we become something that is accepting. That we find happiness and truth in this, what we would otherwise call horrendous, terrible, unfortunate, deeply saddening experience. Perhaps we are meant to feel each one of those feelings and discover that the person who is sick would still want us to know what love and happiness is, and that in their name or in our name, ultimately then, moving forward on the discovery of truth would literally be our purpose. We can find it through our feelings. May we feel and heal. To hear Holy Spirit's voice is the answer. It is the alternative. It is the only other way of seeing compared to the ego. We either see or we do not. We either accept truth wholly through forgiving wholly, or we don't. And we live in hell. And we call that darkness light. And in our sickness, we wonder why we can never find true health and happiness, that it won't stick, because we are selling something to ourselves that we do not know, that we do not have. You will listen to madness or hear the truth. Try to make this choice as you think about the premises on which our conclusion rests. We can share in this conclusion, but in no other, for God himself shares it with us. Okay, I imagine it's saying that if you're able to wear a perspective that God, as you see it, God is a giver of life, that he gives happiness and love, that he is fundamentally love, that must be offering perfect peace and perfect safety, that freedom from worry is literally your right. This does not make you powerful in the sense that you enter back into the illusion of control by relative power, by oppression and coercion. In reverse, it's the invitation for you to discover your humility, that you have run away from this perfect Father who has created you in perfection yourself and granted you the opportunity for experience as you see fit. But as you get into the darkness, you're unable to see the light with which you want to be building, and therefore have clarity of mind to understand and therefore to know what is in your best interest and how to go about it. You will listen to madness or hear the truth. God shares his happiness with you. We can share in this conclusion that your function must be happiness, but we can't share in anything else, because anything else would be an illusion if you are able to see this perspective of God. So we can see how illogical we are, believing that we will find happiness through any other function. It becomes illogical once we can see our direct line through our creation to God. That is the simple logic that gives us the perspective to heal all of our ill way of thinkings, all of our confusion, all of our doubt, all of our pain, all of our suffering. That instead we are normally picking some lens that brings us so close to the pain that we think everything is pain, death, destruction, and we are fearful at all times, because we have infinite examples of how we are destroyed if we sway from this way of thinking. Today's idea is another giant stride in the perception of the same as the same and the different as different. Whoa. Today's idea is another giant stride, giving relative size to something, in the perception of the same as the same and the different as the different. On one side stands all illusions, all truth stands on the other. Let us try today to realize that only the truth is true. I find peace in this statement. Thank you, book. Did you give me this idea? Did I have this idea? Is it just a synchronistic thing? That the idea is trying to tell you what exactly it is. The truth is the truth. Illusion is illusion. Fear is fear. There is just no other way of an idea expressing itself other than what it is. This is our idea of creation, making these words, giving credence to a feeling. And as that thing is created, or we notice it and we define it, whatever order you would like to assume, once it is there, I am sad. Okay, then you know sadness. Sadness is expressing itself. It can only, quote unquote, make you sad if you give credence to that idea. Nothing can make you sad if you do not know sadness. Then you become the creator. How would I like to feel about this? I would like to know happiness. And if it is even the destruction of my loved one, if I was in their shoes, I would be looking at my partner saying, perhaps this is the change that is happening to me. I want you to move forward in life with happiness. Please live. Please live. So even in this case, we're not going to ignore our loved one, but we will want to know happiness. How do we want to feel? If we say, this makes me anything, makes me angry, makes me sad, whatever, then we are giving away our sovereignty of creation and assigning it to some other external event that does not exist, not from the perspective of the present. And therefore, we have a reason in the past to carry an idea forward that we must hold on to. By definition, we are defending it. Hey, this must exist. This idea must exist from the past. This ill, this violence, this sickness must exist. We are defending simply its existence in the present, which is unsustainable because any newcomers in the present will not know it. They don't know what it is. And if we demand that it must continue to exist, we have to continue to supply energy. And there goes our life energy into this idea. We are giving it the power to create what our present feeling and state is as we attempt to replicate it over and over and over and over in our mind so that it doesn't go away. And in this defense of this idea's existence, well, we'll do anything to prove that it's true. And we will always be wrong. Let us try today to realize that only the truth is true. That the truth may only offer the truth. It is true. It is. It simply is. That is what the idea is. It's totally different than sadness. It's totally different than anger. It's totally different than fear. Those all build with whatever they are. That's what they are. That's all they have to give. So if you believe that a heaven exists, however you would define it, perfect peace, perfect safety, true happiness, freedom from worry, invulnerability, eternal, then that must be created by somebody who knows what that is if it is to be true. Otherwise, it would be an illusion. It would be an illusion. It's like going to a haunted house. You know it's there to scare you, but you go in because you want to be excited by the spectacle of fear. And then you leave. It wasn't real. And you went anyways. That we are playing around. That is what we are allowed to do here. But if we're giving credence to these ideas, then we are not existing in the purity of truth. In shorter practice periods, which would be most helpful today if undertaken twice an hour. Okay, there's no way that I did it once an hour yesterday. I think mine got all packed into a short duration again, and I had to accept that idea if I wanted to be able to see it differently than shame I could feel if I wasn't hitting this idea every hour. I choose to continue. I choose to continue. That the past was the past. Would I like theoretically to have had more energy to be able to notice it every hour or to even have set an alarm for those things? Perhaps. But what if I'm on a phone call for 2 hours and I'm present there? Have I done something wrong? I don't know. I guess the book would say that my purpose of noticing this is greater than the phone call. But I also notice that in communion with people who are orbiting around something like this idea, or as I am interacting, I am seeing more of my incongruencies reflecting in other people, that I am being provided the opportunity to practice it in real time, to notice and to change my spelling, the way that I speak, to reframe my mind by releasing these ideas and saying, please forgive me, by creating more humility as I direct my comments outward at people that I know and say, have you seen it this way? I feel like I'm talking at you. Please forgive me. I suppose I'm speaking for myself using the example, but I just cannot help but notice this way of seeing it. Maybe I'm working on it. I feel that I am, and it feels really great. I feel clearer more often. I feel more settled in all things. I don't feel exhausted, stretched out meaninglessly. And when I'm tired, I'm grateful to sleep. My dog sighing, waiting for a late dinner. Hello, sweetie. How wonderful it is to connect with our loved ones and fall asleep, to know safety. This is an idea we all want. And we keep suffering the cycle of attacks to which we collectively are contributing. How will we ever find peace through attack? Twice an hour. The form of the application is suggested to be, my happiness and function are one because God has given me both. Please repeat this. My happiness and function are one because God has given me both. Top of the hour. My happiness and function are one because God has given me both. Halfway through the hour. My happiness and function are one because God has given me both. At a red light that you missed because someone cut you off. My happiness and function are one because God has given me both. Outside with my dogs, hearing the birds chirp in the morning. Maybe my feet are getting wet. Maybe I feel cold, but maybe I hear and notice something else. My happiness and function are one because God has given me both. In the middle of that phone call, at the end of that phone call, while the phone is ringing, my happiness and function are one because God has given me both. It will not take more than a minute and probably less to repeat these words slowly and think about them a little while as you say them. My happiness and function are one because God has given me both. Maybe you can do that twice an hour, separately. Maybe you can pick a time and begin a 10 to 15-minute practice period reviewing 3 thoughts. God gives me only happiness. That's premise number 1. God gives me only happiness. He has given me my function. That's premise 2. He has given me my function. Well, if God is only happiness and God has given me my function, what is my function? Therefore, my function must be happiness. Therefore, my function must be happiness. This is the conclusion. God gives me only happiness. God has given me my function. Therefore, my function must be happiness. For 10 to 15 minutes today, please reflect on those ideas and like the ones we have discussed. And please, if you can, twice an hour. My happiness and my function are one because God has given me both. I am Kesten Rono, and I will try to see the logic in this sequence, even if I do not yet understand the conclusion. My happiness and my function are one, and our minds are connected. And I will try this idea on, and I invite you to do the same. See you tomorrow. Be well.